Hey, Relay community, it's Lindsey Hein with Peter Bromka, Tommie Runz, Marcus Brown, myself, and some bros here. I'm the only lady on the pod today. Happy New Year.
I like how sometimes she's like, it's a community, other times we're friends.
Oh.
It just depends how close she feels to all of us.
I think I do say friends.
Start off the new year, we're just the community. You
Yeah,
know, we're not
I'm here
friends.
to speak to you.
Did I say community this
You
time?
said community. You said community.
You never know what will come up.
Well, one time I met someone and they were like, the only thing is you didn't say, hey, friends. And I was like, oh, people know that I say that apparently. That's a thing.
Welcome, Relay fellow humans.
Marcus, what's your intro? If I was like, intro voice, hit me.
This is the voice.
Come on, man, you know
There's no other voice, unfortunately, Peter. I just basically
How do you intro your pod? What do you say?
welcome to or welcome back to Runner's Life podcast. I'll say something about like, hey friends,
nice.
something like that, but probably not as
my
excitable as say like
God.
Matt, for example. But like, it's just my low key voice, unfortunately.
Yeah,
No,
like,
it's okay.
Tommie's intro.
it is funny that you, as soon as you just do a few episodes, you get stuck with whatever you started it with. Like, I
Yeah.
can't get out of saying, what's everybody? This is Tommie Runz. This is the Running Sleep Show. Like, you can't say anything else. Like, you try, but it's just like we're saying this over and over.
Everyone's like, thanks for not using your intro. Can you please
Can you
go
do
back?
Can
That's
someone
my
do a
idea.
Mike Co?
Hey, everybody. Isn't that what he does?
Yeah.
Hey,
Hey,
everybody.
what's going on?
Yeah, what's going
everybody?
on?
Yeah. Hey,
But
what's going on, everybody?
What's Chittum is like, he goes even higher. He's like, hey! One time, did I tell you about this? We stayed together out in Eugene, and
Yeah.
he recorded these live shows at the expo, and then we're back in the hotel room, and I was like putting something in my bag, and I just hear like Matt Chittum, the podcaster, just explode into the room, and I like swivel around like, what's going on? And it turned out he had put his phone into like the seat of the couch and was recording the intro. For the podcast listeners who weren't at the live show. So he had used the audio from the live show for a podcast later that week. But he was doing the intro. He's like, one take, got it. There we are. But he did his whole like 60 seconds just off the cuff.
Off
Can I
the cuff,
ask a
yeah.
question?
Wait, can we
about
talk
that?
about...
Cuffers.
Real quickly, is Matt's intro voice, that his raw voice, or does he sound like an old British gentleman, like offline, like David Attenborough?
Yeah,
Like,
if you were to
who's
get
this guy
together with
offline?
him.
It's his real voice. Yeah, it's
Okay.
his real voice.
It's his most exuberant self.
I want
Okay.
to know more about you and Matt having a sleepover. I'm just like...
Oh, yeah.
I just want to know what experience is like, because when I travel for work, my friend Jess will a lot of times will like share a hotel room, and I just like, like at bedtime, like us girls, we do our bedtime routine, our skincare, and then we wear
Oh,
eye
yeah.
masks and all of our things, and I'm like, what do Peter and Matt like? What are you talking about? What's your nighttime chat?
Oh man, it is like it is health destruction, purely because of like excessive communication. Like we're both chatters and we're both interested in the same geeked out stuff. So we stayed together at CIM, and at some point I just had to be like, we're not talking anymore. We're going to bed, because it's just like, I mean, imagine. I wish maybe it's something, Matt, if you're listening to this, we can aspire to like more personal, more deeply centered conversation in the future. It's just that we've like indexed our brains across the same like pro runners and amateur runners and like Instagram influencers, and you're just like, well, that's interesting because you mentioned that. It makes me think of this other person I had on my podcast, and it just goes and goes until it's like
How interesting this is.
it's like midnight, and you're like, why are we still awake? We're not
So
like
you
this.
guys- So I just picture you guys as like the nerdy running version of Step Brothers.
Oh yeah, are we best friends? Are we best
Are we
friends?
best friends? No, that part when he's like, I'm gonna put some Brillos in a. What would he say? I'm gonna put some bricks in a suit in my pillowcase and beat the shit out of you.
Actually, I will say when we were at CIM, at some point I came in and Wedding Crashers was on, and we're like, well, we're just watching the rest of this. Like,
Yeah.
that was
Of
just
course.
a clear.
That's
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
dream come true. There was
Guess
a
we got
show.
some time.
Yeah, no, that's the best. I have a question about the bed situation, because I will request two beds, but like if we get one big bed, I'm like, it's fine. It's me and one of my girlfriends.
This
We
is
got enough
turning
space
into
in
a
between
different
us.
type of podcast than I thought it was.
Here we
I'm
go.
just curious, like, because I feel like two men sharing a room is different. Like, is that a very hard, like, we have to have two beds?
Cuddle time.
There's no cuddling. I'm just saying, like, if I
know.
have to.
It's a great. I wish I had a better answer. Both the times Matt Chittum has been on top of it and requested
Two beds.
two beds.
Literally.
I mean, he's sort of a big deal at these podcast live shows. He's got his own pick a room.
All right, so let's just continue with this thought. So like, let's just say, you show up and Chittum thought he did his thing. He thought he's got the room of and it's like you walk in and it's just one queen bed, not even a king bed. It's just one queen bed, no couch. What happens?
Yeah, what do you do?
Oh wow!
What do you do?
Yeah, I mean,
What do you do, Jack? What do you do?
I'm imagining like this road show goes on tour and like city by city. And it's like, okay, but you can share a bed in Manhattan, but could you share a bed in Japan where the beds get smaller and smaller? Like the spaces, could you be on top of each other?
Just put some pillows in between you
No,
and
man.
you call it good.
No, man. We're playing rock paper scissors. Someone's on the floor. That's
On the
it.
floor,
That's the
okay.
answer to that's the answer to the question, Peter.
You're
I don't
like,
think Peter.
it was a
I
trick
think they do
question.
the pillow thing in the middle. I think they just be
And
like,
honestly,
whatever.
Peter, and if somehow this happened to me and Peter for some reason, right? I'm probably gonna pull the race card and figure out how to get to bed.
You're like, I
It's
got you.
whoever's racing in the morning.
Oh yeah, that type of race.
Oh, that
Oh.
race card.
Lindsey Hein with the race card.
Like, you were racing.
Wow.
I love that you didn't go. I love that you didn't automatically go there. That's awesome. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you, Lindsay. You didn't even think about race.
She's so committed to the running life.
Tommie pulling the race card
she's
on
like,
the pod.
She's like, what race? Like, what race would be after that?
Clearly, whoever has their bib already ready.
Right. Whoever's got the lowest number bib. This is not a jogger's race. You get the bed.
But wait, I said that because you're always racing. You're the
I
only
get it.
one that's always racing.
I appreciate that you went there.
It's got a lot on the calendar and emotionally.
But you're going to pull the actual race card because you're like, Peter Bromka made me sleep on the floor.
Yeah, like right. Yeah. Imagine the imagine the backlash, Peter.
That's true. In
I
just
just
in
took the
terms of
offensive.
how I want to be perceived, I'd be like, no. I want you
No.
shouting me out on podcasts as the guy who jumped on the floor.
Yeah. You like oh my God, Peter like totally he laid out some mattress on the floor and he just was good. He had his Alpha Fly 6s on.
He was already ready to go.
He was ready to go.
Oh man. Well, yeah, it's going to be interesting because a lot of events coming up, and I'm like, how do we? I'm determined to share rooms with different people to avoid the expense, but I'm also don't want to overstay. Don't want to overextend the welcome. They'll be like, "What do you?"
Marcus is like, I'm not flying all the way over to the U.S. and sharing a room with anybody.
Yeah, probably. But I could see you stay like somewhere in the dead of winter. There's no heating, and then Peter turns around to you and goes, "All right, there's no blankets here. Should we just use body heat?" And I'm like, "Peter, no." Like, get on the floor.
I'm a big team player. Let's bring people together.
Oh my God.
Keep the singlet on the road.
Matt starts going through the percentages like he does. You know what I mean? He's like the percentages of us living through the night are pretty low. Unless we're like within 2 feet of each other.
You know the sort of like when it's crickets on a text chain, like when Matt did a whole percentage breakdown of the world record change, and like we were all just like crickets. Like, what's there to say? Okay, yeah, sounds good. We trust you.
We trust you.
Okay. We should talk about our feelings on the new year. I keep seeing all these posts going, in for 2024, out with 2023. And
I've seen that.
yeah, I keep seeing people do that. And I was at, I've been going to this like alpha strength class at my fancy gym, which I love. And every class they ask us a question at the beginning. It's usually something silly like, what treats are you looking forward to for Christmas, blah, blah, blah. But this time this girl goes, what are you getting rid of in 2023 and what are you bringing in for 2024? And I'm like, I just said, that's a really big question. I feel like I don't have enough time to explain myself here in this 5 seconds each person in the class is given. So anyway, When you've seen those posts, what have you thought about? Does anybody have things that they have thought, I want to not do that anymore?
It'd be challenging to do like a 3 in, 3 out, you know what I mean? Really quick. So I'm going to say you go first while I think about it.
Well, on the spot in the class, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to have an answer right now. On the spot, I said I want to drink less alcohol, and for 2024, I wanted to have some specific fitness goals. Like, I don't know what they are yet, which I know that any of those like smart Adam Grant, Brad Stolberg, all those people would tell me I need to have a specific I need to actually get specific, but that's what I said. I want to actually make a specific goal.
So in for you is a specific, more specific goals.
Yeah, because this is what I always say, like I don't have a hard time being motivated to work out. Like, that's part of my life. At least 6 days a week, I'm doing something, working out, running, strength training, riding my bike, whatever. But I've been really stagnant for a long time, and I want to have like something that feels challenging. And I don't know what that is. Like, I don't know if that's trying to run fast again, or just like trying a new distance, or doing a triathlon again. I haven't done that in a long time. I don't know what it is, but I have to like get specific so that I have a goal to shoot for.
I think one end for me for the year would be getting a bit more organized, like tackling a little bit more organization. As
in
you
what
can see
sense?
behind me, if you could see behind me, looks great. The shoes are great. If you could see on the other side of this camera, that this is my life on the other side of the camera. It gets hectic, but like I have a lot going on, and I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with that type of chaos. But then there are moments where you could pull things together a bit more organized, kind of behind the scenes, to make all of this more like digestible. You know.
I don't know, Tommie. You did a rundown of what you tackled in 2023, and I was floored. And I was like, man, this guy must have a process.
Nothing.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe more, I don't know what to call it, but just more organized with like the process of like, you know.
So are you naturally, your brain works in such a manner? I was thinking like, okay, the TRE live stream didn't come out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. We keep coming back to this because we're all so impressed by it. But like, it also, your brain just naturally was like, oh, we're about 7 months out from TRE. I should start pitching them. Or you don't have like a jot on a calendar or a note to self, like come up with crazy shit no one's thought of before and pitch it at the appropriate amount of time ahead of time.
No, I'm more of a, if I have an idea, I go.
Okay.
And if that happened 1 month before TRE, I would have pitched it still.
Good.
And when I pitched it, it wasn't even early enough really to do it you should have pitched something like that like 11 months before.
Okay.
But yeah, so what for everything that's happened, either I got invited to or I literally pitched it the moment I thought about it. Because if I don't, then it's all gone.
When did Miami come about? I was like, man, he just went to all these places. Now he's back in. It was like just a couple weeks ago. You went to Miami with some brand. I'm forgetting.
No.
Ran a half marathon.
Oh yeah,
no,
Orlando.
He was in Orlando.
Orlando,
wasn't he?
yeah.
Orlando. Sorry, that was the lead up to the. Oh yeah.
Miami was January.
Yeah.
Last year. But yeah, Orlando was. I just got invited by Track Shack, and I was already gonna be at TRE, so I said sure, and just didn't come home and went there instead. So like a lot of it's just random opportunities that come up, or like something I pitched that worked out well, and it is what it is. But even in between all that, like it'd be easier for me to place things and maybe like do it more like Lindsey and have like the more specific goals if I had more organization to like how I got to how 23 happened, you know.
Let me just say that I don't have specific goals. I need to do that.
Yeah, I mean work on some more specific goals. Yeah.
I was thinking about that though. Just what you're saying, like the idea comes to your head and you just pitch it right away. Like on my run today, I was thinking about that because some of my best ideas, and I'm sure all of you guys experience this, like come on the run. And sometimes I move on them, sometimes I don't. And I'm like, what if you moved on all of them? Because sometimes you get back and you're like, that was kind of audacious. Like that was kind of silly. That's too much. But I'm like, the people that are doing really big things probably move on all of them. And I just kind of like sometimes just shrug my shoulders and like, Nah, that was aggressive because you had all these like endorphins going through your body and you thought it sounded really cool in the moment.
Yeah, no,
you
I
know
like
what I
that
mean?
idea. There should be a sounding board that you at least send all of those ideas on the run to that first group of people. Like,
But then you feel like, and then,
No.
but then once I
I'll,
come
I'll
back
be on
down,
that board. No, like
then I come
throw it
back down
out.
and I feel stupid, and I'm like, was that
Oh.
dumb? Because I was like on a high. You know what I mean?
I don't
No.
know. I think that's you at your most like intense distilled self. It's
No,
exciting.
to me, it's like if I have an idea on a run, I'll think about it for as long as possible on the run. Like, so it won't just be like a fleeting thought. It'll be like, okay, let's think about it. And then if I still think it's good enough to remember it later, then I'm doing it.
Okay.
You know, like I started my podcast like 3 days after a long run that I thought about it.
Yeah, I love
So
that.
like it just sometimes you just got to go.
3
I
days.
also-
See, that's interesting because with my podcast, I thought about it for like 8 months before I was like, I think I could actually do this. Like, because I kept trying to talk myself out of it because I thought it was like a stupid plan. Like I couldn't pull it off or something.
But I guess like for people listening, like if an idea doesn't take like a large amount of like capital or something, and it's like and there's an easier way to get it done, even if it's not like perfect, because nothing will ever be perfect. Because even if you had like $10 million to start a podcast tomorrow, it's still going to be much better 100 episodes later. So
Right.
it's like if you can start it at a pretty low cost and cancel it like you know later, you know, with no money lost for real, then you might as well just do it.
Wait, can I tell you, no money lost for real? Speaking of which, it's evidence of what you're saying. But I am a serial like website domain buyer.
Oh my
Like-
god,
Oh, that
you're one
does
of
not
those.
surprise me. That does
I'm
not
like,
surprise me.
the idea hits me. I'm like, I gotta own that. I check, it's available, and for some reason, I believe that this website has not been purchased by anyone ever, and it's available. And I'm like, I gotta buy it now. Like, I have to lock it down. What if I come back and it's gone? And so if you log into my Squarespace where I buy URLs, it's just all. I'm like, whoa, that one. Oh, I remember the run when I came up with that one. Oh, that, like, who even knows what that was gonna be?
Can we get
But
some
for some
examples?
reason-
You can't leave us hanging there.
Oh,
What's
my
the worst
best-
purchase?
My best all time was this was much earlier internet. Back when I graduated college, I thought I was gonna. Things used to be so much more complex. So you actually literally had to code the website to put it online. And so I had taken an introductory computer science course, and I I purchased the domain upyourmileage.com.
Oh.
which I thought was just the perfect distillation of like, oh yeah, but you go upyourmileage.com.
Get you cancelled right now.
Which is
That's
not-
what Jess will do.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, when I see, what was it? There was just an article out about like how maybe you should run with lower mileage, and I'm like,
No one's used. Do you still own it?
no, I don't even know like what email
one-
that would
no
have
one's-
been.
No one's using it.
Yeah.
Upyourmileage.com.
I was
I could
actually
also, I was just saying, I could see Matt doing that as well, by the way.
oh yeah, just like purchase.
Like, just
Here
like
we go.
the second he comes to mind, just purchasing it. Yeah.
No, I know a guy that's who does that like consistently, and he's sold one of the names for $100,000.
Yeah.
So I was just listening to this podcast, and you know the brand Native, like Native deodorant.
Okay.
I think that's the brand they were talking about. They were saying that somebody else owned it, and anyway, they ended up having to sell it for like $100 million or something insane like that, like millions of dollars, just to get the name. But I mean, they did it, but some random guy owned it, like that wasn't doing anything with it. That's
I
crazy.
do it also with Instagram handles. I'm like, ooh, this will be super sweet. And then I check, and it's like some lady from 7 years ago who last posted something. And I'm like, oh, I need you. Like, as though what's standing between me and this new idea is the perfect Instagram.
What would you be willing to pay though? Like if like lindseyhine.com was taken, like what would I be willing to pay for that? I don't know.
It's a
I
weird
mean,
world. Like,
It's different now because like they give you like 1,000 other options like Lindsey Hein dot whatever something
Org
else
or whatever, yeah.
But I mean for big business where it's like no, this
Yeah.
is what we're we have to
You have to
this
have
is-
it.
We've already put too much in this and it has to be Heinz.com, like that's it.
Yeah.
we'll pay for
like
it.
native
you know?
deodorant needed to be whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, Peter, what's in with you and what's out with you? And Marcus, you have to answer too.
Or at least ends, because me and Lindsay really just did ends.
Oh, right. Well, finish, Tommy. I did my both.
No, that was my end organization. Yeah.
Okay, I said my out was less alcohol.
Oh, okay. So yeah, me less alcohol too.
All right, even less than less.
Even less than
Zero.
before. I'm gonna be anti-alcohol next year. I think out would be this would be a good one. I think that people probably think is weird. Putting a number on a pedestal. Like race, like times. Mm-hmm. Like there's a difference between I feel like there's a difference between having a goal time for a race and actually like putting that number on this pedestal that makes the process less enjoyable. Mm-hmm. Because I'm gonna do the process anyway. I'm gonna race the race anyway. I'm gonna do all the miles anyway. But I think that like when it comes race day, I think you have to have like some loose, strong tie to this goal, but it can't be so much where it just like destroys your race, where you're so tense and you can't even like let your body do the things that you've been trying to train it to do.
Hold a second. Is this like a newsflash that you're not doing the redemption tour again?
Up, Marcus.
Been killed.
No, yeah. So yeah, I'm doing that.
I'm
twice.
Sorry, I don't care tour. I'm just here. Whatever happens tour.
Yeah, I don't care tour. It is what it is tour.
Care.
It is what it is tour.
Do you think it's easier to do that though, like to let all those things go, if you've hit the big goal? Like for a long time, your goal might have been to BQ, then to break 3, then to break 250 or whatever. And like once you've reached a point where you're like fairly satisfied with some accomplishments, is it easier to let those things drop? Like you still want to run faster though.
Yeah, no, like I still want to. I want to break 240. You know, like I want to get to 230 one day. You know, like that'd be sweet. And I'm those numbers will be there. But what I'm saying is like I think that sometimes, or at least for me, like I've told the line of races with this like such a huge like large like looming presence of this number that I have to get. You get so tense, you can't really enjoy it. It doesn't mean you can enjoy a race and still run really fast. You know, like you can run a PR and have a fairly good time along the way, you know. But I just think sometimes we put the number so, and it for a lot of us, it like a lot of people like are trying to break 4 or break 3. The number is so big in their focus that it makes them run a race differently than they would have if they let it go a little bit and then just ran the plan. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Like, so I'm not saying no goals and it is what it is tour, 2024. It's like, go after the goal, like do all the stuff, but we're amateurs at the end of the day, like have some type of fun in that.
Joggers.
We're joggers. I mean, I think I totally agree, but almost I come to it from a different angle, which is realizing how often the time it's like kind of totally random whether your body's going to even be able to perform in that zone. Even when I have accomplished goals, broken times that I set out to accomplish, and in hindsight been like, man, that was really random that I was able to do that. And I'm sure
on
someone could try to tell me that like it's the power of manifesting through a goal, but I've ended up very thankful that some of the days have worked out because I'm like, man, it was just kind of random that I decided I was going to try to break 235 and then I did. And it looks very much like, oh, that was all by design. When in reality, like you got out there, you hit some splits, you tried to get tough, you kicked it in, and whoa, if that comes out like 15 seconds below a threshold, you look like you're smart. And if it comes out 15 seconds above, which is all just like within an order of like randomness. So I definitely think, I mean, I talked a lot about the Olympic trials standard over the last couple of years, and watching all my friends go after these crazy goals the last couple of years pointed out to me how fortunate I was almost by accident, like by happy serendipity, that when I went for the OTQ, it happened to be within a zone I was able to get close to, if that makes sense. It's just like, yeah, sure, it's all by design and like training plans are sketched in a certain way, but really your body's only capable of like training at a certain level at any given time. And I think this is what you're saying, Tommie. It's like it's honoring that and approaching it like,
No, I know that some of the pressure that we put on ourselves to hit a certain time or else, often plays a negative role in the way that we race the race.
Yeah.
You can have a goal and be very steadfast with that goal without like having it destroy your running experience.
Well, I'm going to be working with a lot of athletes racing Boston, and I'm thinking about how to help them goal set. And part of that process I'm thinking through is like, let's start off by throwing out those numbers. Let's not throw them away. Put them up. Like, if that's what you want, like throw them on the page wherever you document your goals. But then let's move past it, because like you're saying, I'm much more interested in like, what's your strategy for racing really hard from 17 to 22, for instance. Like, that's what's going to get you to an awesome day. Or let's talk about racing well after heartbreak. Man, I just become a broken record. But I'm like, I think getting to the top of heartbreak and trying to run well those final 5 miles is one of the most exciting segments of marathoning in America.
You didn't tell me that before this last year. I got over heartbreak and was like, oh, we're good here, all done. And then my body was like, no, yeah,
our work here is
all
done. Yeah. But those are like much more specific, and they're more like almost catch you off guard. Like, oh, whoa, what would it take to do that? Oh, I would probably train in this certain way. I would probably like mentally focus. And it's the people who are ready for those challenges that like you can see it coming about, but they're sort of assumed. Like, oh, if I say I want to break 240, it'll all be assumed. But I think those things are not assumed, and they often get overlooked.
All right, Peter.
Yeah.
In or out? In and out. What are you doing?
In and out. I need to be more self-reflective. Like, I need to be more assessing my own behaviors. I was going to say, my biggest thing is someone was talking to me about incremental gains. There's like an incremental gains podcast. I think it speaks to a lot of these sciencey podcasts. And I'm noticing how maybe I'm just becoming an old man. I'm like, I'm so not that interested in like these 1% things. And I'm so much more like, oh yeah, we got to go to bed. We got to go to bed at like an alarm that gets you to go to bed at 9:15, not 11:15, is so much more impactful than like a certain root juice that like that someone's going to try to sell me. So I'm a little bit less into I want to personally get my like basics locked down, and I want to like proselytize it not being about the incremental gains and it more being about the basics.
I mean, when you say that, Peter, though, it does make me think of our friend David Goggins.
Oh.
Because I told you I had sent Peter the
segue.
We still have to hear Marcus's though, but I had sent Peter the link. I listened to David Goggins on the Huberman podcast, and I immediately sent Peter the link because I was like, all I can think about is how much you can't stand David Goggins when I listen to this. But his whole shtick, even though he can be kind of irritating, his whole shtick is like, just effing do it. Like, there's no like secret. There's no magic, anything. Like, just go do it. Just go do what you need to do every day and decide to do it. And to me, that was kind of like refreshing, because there is all these hacks. There's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Atomic Habits, all those books and all these like methods. And it's like, well, are you motivated? Okay, figure out a way to get motivated and get your butt up and just do it.
Sure. Yeah. Like I think it's most exciting are like, what are the little wins you can set yourself up with that get you out the door?
Yeah.
So, I started leaving like a hoodie by my bedside years ago.
Does that like get you
it's just so you can go
out of bed,
what are you
or
doing?
what does the hoodie do?
No. So when I'm sleeping in bed, I'm like, oh, I don't want to get out of bed. I'm like, okay, I'll put my hoodie on. Like, all right, that'll help me. Like,
is the hoodie like comforting? Is it like
it's
cozy?
Like warm.
It's my own little cocoon when I'm sharing a bed. Yeah. When I lose the comforter tug of war.
I remember people used to be like, lay out your clothes the night before, like sleep in the clothes you're going to run in. I'm like, who's sleeping in the clothes they're going to run in? That is way too restrictive.
That always makes me uncomfortable. Yeah.
Did you see the David Beckham documentary?
No, but I
Sorry,
want to.
Sorry, the reason why you just said that, he in the opening scene, he literally has his week's worth of clothing like laid out on on a rack. And I was just like, who has a week's worth of clothing like organized? So it made me feel pretty insecure then. But yeah, thanks, David.
Yeah.
That was somebody on my podcast was talking about that though. Who was it? He lives in Boston. He trains with Boston. He's like a scientist. Do you know who I'm talking about, Peter? Matt McDonald.
Oh.
Do you know who I'm talking about? Matt McDonald. Yeah. He was talking about that because, like, when you have the less decisions that you have to make, the better.
Yeah,
so I think he was talking about Obama. Like, everything is like, he's once said on a podcast, like, every single thing is like already pre-decided and laid out. He doesn't have that is not taking up any brain space.
Mm-hmm.
But it does take up
I
brain space when you do it. What if your mood changes? What if it's Tuesday and I'm like, I don't want to wear that on Tuesday?
Well, that's the point.
It's raining.
You don't do that. You know, like it's like, you know what? It's raining. I mean, I get the point. I mean, I think some of it's extreme. Like laying out a week's worth of clothing is kind of extreme. But I know I've heard people that buy a lot of the same color scheme of clothes, so there is no like, so they just don't have to worry about that. And if you're okay with like doing that, then that's great. And I think some people are like, some people can't do that. Like you can't, like you have to have some artistic like power over what you're gonna wear at least, you know. So I don't think that's for everybody. But back to like the David Goggins thing, like I like David Goggins, you know, so if you boil it all down, it really is just go do the thing, you know. I mean, and he says it on the most extreme ways. He tells his story about like how he ran on 17 broken feet and he did this and he did that. But like, if you were, everybody's like, well, that's dangerous. You shouldn't do it. Yeah. You know, like, I mean, I get that. Like, I can be inspired by like an F1 driver and I'll never drive a car that fast, you know? But the point I think is like, what gets you to go do that could possibly make me, you know, stop the excuses and then like go for my 2-mile walk instead of like complaining about everything, you know? And I think it's like a very specific, not a very specific audience, because I think anybody could get something from that, but I don't think it's like, I hope he's not. I never hear him, to me, in my like way I break it down to say go do something dangerous just because he did. You know, I think it's just like, I'm an example of you can go do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, when I hear him, though, all the things I said, like, I get motivated because he's like, just go do it. But mostly I hear him also saying, you're all effing lazy.
Yeah.
What inspires me, though, is the conversation on, like, there are so many, like, average people walking around because they don't choose to, like, fulfill their potential. And that really does make me think, like, because you don't want to look back and be like, what did I not do, you know, at the end of your life. So, you know, I think that it just inspires me to, like, do big things and be creative and don't just, like, stay on this hamster wheel, which is really hard not to do when you have to get your kids to school and make their lunches and record the podcast. And you know what I mean? It is, you do get in that cycle. So
yeah, I think you can, like, rotate it through different parts of your life. Like, you might be crushing your running goals, but you might be scared about like putting yourself out there at work or like trying to take on a new project. And that, I guess that attitude, the attitude of like look past the excuses, look past the blocks you set up for yourself is really powerful. I do feel like I had to see past a lot of him yelling at me. I'm like, why am I getting yelled at so much? But I mean, for certain people, that's super motivating.
Peter?
Yeah. Like, so, that's what I think it's, I feel like it's like certain, you know, like he has an audience for sure that like that may hear you're being lazy and they go like, you know what, you're right. You know, I am. You know, and if that's not you, it's just like he's yelling at the kid next to you. You know,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you know, your teacher talked to the whole class, but I mean, not everything was directly for you. You just had to hear what was going on. So I think it's like, yeah, I don't think I'm lazy, but then there's moments where like I can be lazy or I can be like fall into that like average trap where I could, you know, I should be better at this than I am.
Yeah.
You know, and I just think he has a very ineloquent way of saying certain shit. So, but that's okay. You know, and I think that that's good too, because if he was up there just like scholarly all the time, I don't think he would have the same impact he has on so many people.
And he doesn't care. Like
No, he doesn't care,
the
yeah.
one thing that's refreshing, although I mean, the podcast with Huberman did get a little bit redundant because, like, you know, you can only say the same thing in so many ways. The one thing that is refreshing is like he just doesn't care who he offends. Like he's just gonna say it, and he's like, if that bothers you, like that's your own problem. Like figure it out. And I do find that a little bit refreshing that he's just not concerned about offending people. Maybe he should be a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard him say like anything. I mean, there's some things that can be said that should not be said. You know. And I don't think he goes to I don't think he goes to like some of those lines where like some people in media may nowadays. But yeah, he's pretty harsh, and
But don't you think like he's like he talks about when he weighed 300 pounds and he'll be and then he'll like be like, well, you're fat and lazy, get off your ass, and it's like that could be very offensive to people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So maybe is that refreshing that he just says what he wants, or should he not say that, No,
I think it's an interpretation though, because he's saying it about himself. He's not talking about other people. So like you could hear it, but if you're hearing it about yourself, then that's different. He's not going, hey you, Dave from down the road, you're fat and 300 pounds, you're a worthless piece of whatever. He's talking about himself. So I don't know. It's just people's interpretations of it, and I don't think he goes around. And I'm not. This isn't the David Goggins like PR salaries program, by the way. I just don't think he goes around to people and go, "Hey, you're fat, you're lazy, you suck, you're not a real person." Like I don't think he does that. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it's that harsh, but I think people start to hear it and think, "Oh, but themselves."
Yeah, one thing that I think that his book, or because I listened to his first book. I started listening to the second one. I don't know if I finished, but I think one thing that he does well, that it sounds like he's talking to people, but I think he's done a really great job at talking to himself for a long time. And like that's like the theme of like his life and book to me, is like him talking himself through all this stuff. So like a lot of those like 30-second things when he's running down the street talking about, this and that, I think he's just talking to like who he thinks that, who he's running from too, to some extent. 'Cause I think when it comes to like what people shouldn't say and things that are offensive, a lot of times like, we get caught like talking to someone else about something we've never experienced. It's like me saying anything about weight loss it would be ridiculous. I may be correct. I may have done my research, but I've never been overweight. So I have no grounds to like, voice my opinion super loud like on my platform just because I think that I got the right thing to say. He's only talking about things that he's dealt with himself, and if it doesn't resonate, it doesn't matter because it resonated with him. So there's a chance it's going to resonate with at least 15% of people that hear it.
That's a good point around like these platforms are really flattening, and like these voices get out to so many people. There was a woman who's like forgetting her name online, but she was on Threads, and she said like, get after your your Christmas workout so that you can burn your calories and enjoy your holiday meal. And like all these people are coming after her for it's sort of like a chutes and ladders game. They're flying down that chute of like going after like the earn your calories, earn your meal type of language. And one guy I follow, just another runner, he just kept replying to people like, "Oh, you're not her audience. Like you're sort of like crossing paths here. She's probably speaking to some other people, and if you just take these things in absolutes, like one way of speaking is good and one is bad, it doesn't really behoove." So I think your point around like the David Goggins is speaking mostly to himself, to other people who want to hear that, who want to rally. I had a buddy put out a newsletter like highlighting people that inspired him, and Goggins was on, and like some other guys like that who were more militaristic, more like yelling and hardcore. And I was like, oh, these guys don't speak to me, but that's interesting. Thanks for sharing me like sort of your small list of people who fire you up.
So I think one of the challenges that we have for social media, I think, is a lot of people try to go into this value content sort of thing, like 3 tips to do this, 3 tips to do that, and I'm not saying I've not fallen into that, but I think as you go further into it, you just realize actually even though you do know a lot, actually you only know about your life. I don't know about someone else's life, what they're going through. So am I really qualified to like give, these are the 3 tips to run a fast 5K? I don't know. You might be, I mean, you might have different things that in your life that I don't have to deal with. So I kind of feel like I've regressed a little bit back from that. So I kind of have a bit of grace for people like that, because I just think there's so many people trying to shout in such a such a concentrated space to give value, but they're not really realizing actually it's just your life experience that you're giving it on.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. I mean, that's like not just with running content. That's like any content. Like what? Because on my feeds, I get a lot of like mom stuff and DIY stuff, and I'm like, sometimes I feel like, oh, then I should do that, and I'm like, oh, that totally would not effing work in my house. My kids would ruin that and destroy that, and like, you know what I mean? Like, but people are just trying to give you a value add, and it's like, well, that's not my life.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Marcus, too, because it's like, I don't, when I see like stuff like that, like, I mean, I know what it is. It's content. It's good content, and there's a bunch of people that may go, okay, great. Thank you so much for that. But for me, it's just hard for me to do that because like, I don't know anything about anything like enough to like, to tell you 5 ways to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause all I can do is just share my experience and that's it. And I think that may be like an AA thing too, because like no one's gonna stand there. This is how you stay sober, I just can't get in the this is how you do it vibe because it may not work for you.
How do you stay sober though?
I just don't drink.
But like, are you to the point now? Do you every day wake up and think about it?
No. I've been honestly, like I've been blessed to like to not have that be one of my issues. Somewhere in the road, I like the decision I made in the beginning was apparently so firm, and then a lot of the work that I did right after that allowed me to not have to like have that issue, because I know there's people that have been sober for decade or more and still have like a thing that they have to like process through often. I just haven't had that. So like that's been a blessing for me though. But that's not the same. Awesome. So that's not to say, because I could give you 3 tips that worked really well for me, but somebody else I could give those same tips to that really need and could try to take those steps and end up worse than they were to start off with. I just can't get on that soapbox.
No, respect to you though for doing that though. I think it's really cool though.
Thank you.
Yeah. I feel like there's so much value in what you're saying of saying like, this is what's worked for me. And because I think there's tension there. I'm like, as a writer, I'm always looking for like, where's there tension or where's there a reveal? And what you're saying is like, of all the things I tried, like, here's a few things that I, helped me get past something I was struggling with, or, exposed an unlock that I might not have expected, but was real for. Whereas, the moment people turn that switch and they're like, here's how to run a fast 5K. I'm like, where are you going to start? Are you going to you could go all day. And I mean, in the same way, if Jakob Ingebrigtsen's telling me about how to run a fast 5K, it's probably bad advice for me because he's like 17, steps above me, and it's probably the wrong. But if he spoke about, here's some things I've tried recently that, caught me by surprise is how well they worked, I'd be interested and I'd probably listen. And they might still be inappropriate for the level I'm at, but they're at least be coming from a genuine place for him. So yeah, I think we're all sort of like griping on the like, I mean, sure enough, like, I ran a first marathon. Here's how to run a marathon. And you're like, oh, the number of ways that people are infinite, that people come to the marathon and want to tackle their first one. And, just like the best practices are best practice because they've been tried and tested by a lot of people, not just like one young guy who happens to be healthy and fairly strong. It's just like, oh.
Right. Like what base are you, who are you coming into this experience as? Like how old are you? How long have you been a runner? Have you maintained this like baseline fitness for a certain number of years? And like, you can't do that. This just doesn't.
It's complex. Oh man. Marcus, I'm curious how you think about your year when you're taking on your new team, your podcast. Like, are you a map the whole year out kind of guy, or are you like go opportunity by opportunity?
That's a really good question, actually. I think, yeah, first of all, when I first started the podcast, it was all very random, no real plan to it. But actually, when you work with people like yourselves and other people in the space, you sort of think, oh, geez, like, okay, these are what people are doing at this level, or, you know, working above. So sometimes it makes you feel like you've got to kind of be a bit more organized. But at the same point, I think you just got to figure out like what is important to you. Like there's so much noise sometimes, and like sometimes you have to kind of step back from it and just be like, cool, like, for example, without naming names, like you compare this person's doing this a great job. If I try and do that, I'm just going to look ridiculous. So I can't copy that. I've just got to try and do me. And I think it's still quite difficult sometimes to do. Like we talked about the bits about trying to add value and all that kind of stuff. And like, yeah. So I think this year's been an interesting one. I think I've changed the podcast slightly. I'm still enjoying having fun with it. But yeah, the running has been really interesting. Getting injured was a big bit of the year, and actually talking about the ins and outs actually of the year, because it's interesting you said that, Lindsey, because I didn't actually see any of that stuff coming in my feed. I actually did a post recently talking about the highlight of my year was actually getting injured. And people think, well, how's that a highlight? That's not. I mean, you ran PRs and whatever, but I was like, because it actually forced me to stop and just be like, okay, cool, this is what I've got. And like, you can't figure out like where you were or where you think you're going. You just have to be like, this is where I am. And you have to really like forget about times and just everything. And I remember one particular run, I went out running and I was just like, when David Goggins and myself a little bit, I was a bit like, I was thinking about a run in the future. I was like, Marcus, you're not effing there. You're here. Like, just get over it. Like, just give the best, like 2 out of 10 you can give. And that's basically something I've sort of trying to take forward. And like, when you think about these January 1st things, like, oh yeah, on January 1st, I'm gonna stop doing this. I'm gonna stop doing this. It's too much. Like you do that before January 1st. Like, so for me, it's just like, all right, you're gonna stop doing that, and you're just gonna focus on just doing the best you can in that day, and that's what you do. So for me, I'm not trying to focus on the in and out stuff. I'm just more focusing on this is what I'm gonna learn from the year before, and just keep carrying it on forward. Because if you make too many big changes, like it's just too much for your brain to kind of, you know, to process and try and figure out. Like, even if you're going to make changes in your training, like, you don't make big changes. You're not like, oh, I'm gonna move country, I'm gonna find a new team, I'm gonna find a new coach, I'm gonna find a new wife, you don't do all that stuff. You're just like one small thing, right? You know what I mean? Like, so I think it's just trying to focus on those small things. And it's not like, just going back to your point earlier before, Peter, about the incremental gains. It's not the incremental gains. It's just doing the basics and just not making sure that you're just trying to stick to your basics. And I know I'm probably sounding quite preachy, but I think for me, like, this works for me, and I'm not trying to say it works for everyone else. But I think for me, I've had to just go back to that real basics of just like, okay, cool. Forget where you were. Forget like your goal at the minute going forward in the marathon. Just focus on just getting back to being a strong runner, and then take it from there.
What I liked about that content that you were talking about, Marcus, I was actually like I was mad when I was watching. Like, this content is so damn good. Like, because you were just being real about the moment that you were in. And the thing that pisses me off about it was like, that's the content that really matters, is like someone saying like what they're actually going through and like how they got through moments that we all have to go through. But then the content that does like the best of all of ours is like the one where it's like kind of shallow and it's kind of just like about a vibe or whatever. And it's like, there's such a great message in the fact that you're like, you know, you're dealing with an obstacle, and we all have to do that, you know, thousands of times in a year. And it's like the toughest times of our lives when we go through certain things, and no one talks about like that moment. We just talk about like tips to get to the next level, to the next thing, you know? So, you know, hats off to you for like taking the time to think about that and put it into like content form. And I think everybody should watch it. But then second, like the New Year's resolution thing, I really like the new trend right now. That's like, it's a joke actually, but it's like a crying audio where someone like goes in and it says like 2023 goals, and it's like buy a Ferrari, and then like they go in, it's like a crying sound, and then they delete the 3 and then they put the 4 because they didn't get a Ferrari. So it's like them keeping the same goal, but it's like, it's a joke. But I've also seen content where it's like,
yes, in that.
No, I'm not changing. my goals are still the same.
Yeah.
It's just another year. I'm going the same direction I was. And I think that that's okay too. Like, we really get caught up in like, what are you going to do different this year? It's like, what if you were on the right path, like, since
Anyway.
like last January, and
Yeah.
you just have to continue down that road? Like, just because it didn't like work so far, doesn't mean that at the top of the year you got to go add 5 more things onto that or scrap everything that you worked on. So it's like, just keep, we're all kind of doing it right, low key. Like, just keep going forward,
Yeah.
I do though
Absolutely.
love the newness and the renewal of like a new year. And even though like you said, like maybe you are on the right path and you don't need to add anything, but like for me it's like a refreshing new start. And also like kudos to everybody who's like, it's a new year, I'm going to the gym now. Like kudos to everybody who's like trying and starting. I just bought like a new devotion for my kids, and I'm like, we're gonna read this every morning. It's like, will this last for a month? I don't know, but I'm gonna try.
It's okay to try things. Yeah.
I want it to set the tone. So yeah, I think there's a lot of like hopefulness in a new year. And if that's something you can like ride the coattails on and it can be encouraging, then do it.
One thing I think doesn't get enough talk about is just unfollowing, like pruning, like just cutting things out where you're like, oh, if this doesn't give me the right vibe, I'm just going to like edit it out. I'm just going to unfollow this person. I've grabbed friends' phones and been like, I'm going to mute that person because they're friends with us. And, maybe you don't want to unfollow and feel like it's personal, but like, you don't have to, there's no rule that says, I think we like follow things thinking like it'll just be an ad. And then we so rarely take the time to be like, oh, I'm just going to, edit this out of part of my week or edit this person's content or their energy out of my life entirely. Totally fine. We're just going to just move along.
Relay safe space. Nobody listening can hear who we all have hidden. All the different people. That's only a relay safe space conversation.
Oh, absolutely. No, I mean, and that's it could be like, it can be large or it can be small. I mean, I think I've talked about this before. Like when it just hits me like a pile of bricks, like, oh,
You're like,
I can just mute this person.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to move along. And I'm not going to even spend any of my life energy like being angsty about them or their style. It's just not what I need.
Yeah, honestly, I think that to kind of add to what you're saying, Lindsey, and to Peter, like, I think whatever is good energy for that's if you had all the right good energy going through this year and next thing you know into 2024, then just keep it and keep going. Great. But if there's ways to add more positive energy to like what you're doing or fuel that fire a little bit more, then great. If you have to like literally prune and unsubscribe to a bunch of email lists and unfollow people, then that's what you got to do. And then if starting off fresh and adding a book to read to your kids is like a way to add more positive energy to that thing, then that's the way to go. But it's just like there's no pressure to like uproot your life and add stuff that doesn't really bring you the thing that you're looking for. It's like you have to really decide, like, what are you going to dedicate this energy towards? And if it's a good thing, and if it's like, hey, you know what, going to the gym is what I got to do, or running every day, or you're reading a book every day, with all that stuff, just make sure it's not just like wasted, because everyone's doing this, I have to add in something too,
I was thinking though about my book reading because I'm like kind of an obsessive book reader. I'm reading this just easy like romance read right now, and I'm like, man, David Goggins would really be like, you are wasting your time on that fucking book. And so I'm
he's in your ear now.
I'm like, I got to get through this book so I can read something that's meaningful.
That David would approve of.
He would not approve of this romance novel.
But I mean, maybe he would though.
I don't know.
I feel that's what I'm saying. I don't think he would, because I just for some reason don't feel like he's gonna sit down and read a romance novel. But like, I think the concept of like, if you decided I'm gonna read 12 books a year, do that 100%. Like,
doesn't matter what the book is, you mean?
No matter what, yeah. Like you stick to what you said you're gonna do. If you want to know like what the most viewed Instagram reel would be for 2024 and beyond, is if David Goggins sat down next to a fire in a silk robe and read a chapter out of a romance novel, and that was it. It didn't say and then and close it with saying "Stay hard." That'd be great.
That'd be great.
Stay hard.
Wait, do you guys still not know about the trend? We're runners. We do. Remember, I sent you guys this message.
Yeah.
Have you
We're
still not
runners.
seen that trend? Like,
No.
It's like
Out in the wild?
we're middle school teachers. We do this, or
Yeah.
we're this. We do this. Have you not seen this trend of like? Okay, I still want to do that on Relay, where we each do a video of ourselves doing some like neurotic, weird
Runner
runner thing, and be like, "We're runners. We do." And what would be your thing? And I have to find one and send it to you because I think it would go over well on Relay. Speaking of like trending things to do on social media,
Well,
I hear what you're saying.
will you do
there.
it? Is this too nerdy?
I mean, it is, but
we're
what's
not big
for you?
actors, but we could try. We could try for you. I don't think we do a lot of playing
No,
a
this
part,
is.
but
I'm gonna do. Mine's gonna start off like this. I'm gonna like act like nothing's happening, and then I'll say, "We're runners." Like I kind of do something like real, like dramatic, like turn to the camera and like
Yeah.
look in the
Dun, dun,
eyes
dun.
of the camera.
What's a neurotic? We have to close after this. What's a neurotic thing you would say? Like, what's something you do as a runner that what would be your shtick on the reel? This is our closing conversation, guys. Make it.
Mine
Meaningful.
would be make
You
coffee.
gotta say
just
it.
Make. Oh, well, how do you say it?
We're runners.
We're runners. We make coffee in the morning just to poo.
What's
Yeah.
yours, Peter?
oh man, okay. Yeah. What was I thinking? We're runners. We follow people on Instagram, even though we don't want to.
I was gonna say like, just this is like such a basic. I'm like, we're runners. We run circles around the cul-de-sac just to get to the
Yeah,
equal
the little
distance.
those little ones. Yeah, but we got to cut deeper than that.
I know
Yeah, no,
that's
come
too
on.
basic, right?
Yeah, that was a basic Bromka right there.
I'd say like, yeah, we're runners. Okay, we're running on Sunday, and basically you're following my training plan. I'm not following yours. That's it. Because we're as flexible as like a bar of steel, to be honest.
Oh, like when you run in a group.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, like,
Okay,
everyone's got
so
a training plan and
everybody,
stuff like
this
that.
is-
And like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You're just
yeah.
trying to like tell everyone what you're doing, and like, you should do what I'm doing. And they're like, well, that's not the program. You can come along. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll
We'll
be
be
fine.
fine.
Just do these repeats with me. You're good.
Okay, so everybody's homework is think of your most like weird we're runners, we blah, and then send me the video.
Yeah.
Send me the video of you saying that, and I'll put it together a reel. And if it flops, it flops, and if not, maybe Relay will just go viral, and we'll be like,
The biggest. Yeah, we're
all
we're
over
gonna
your
be,
feeds.
Man, Zoe's gonna be so jealous if we become big actors. She'll be like, "Wait a second." I don't know if anyone's been following Zoe since she left the team. She's now on her own, or a 3-person outside magazine television show of sorts.
Oh, I don't know about this.
I don't
Oh
know
yeah,
about
it's a
that.
whole thing. Yeah.
What is it?
So, outside TV, like the Outside Show. It's like a live show that happens every week, I guess.
Where,
I-
like, who records it? Like, where's it being? Where's it
It's
streaming? Like,
It's funny that Outside is the name because outside, it sounds like it's just outdoors.
but they're
Like,
inside recording.
It's like it is called Outside Media Inc. and they record it in their studio. It's like a Tonight Show. It's like a weekly live show about the outdoor industry.
Oh,
But it's just to say when I look at a reel and I'm like, ooh, this person's about to act for me. I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I'm how interested.
it's very
I am. But
uncomfortable.
We're
It's
gonna
very
do it. We're gonna
uncomfortable.
do a great job.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with acting either. That's why I never do stuff like that. You can say like, Peter, you can say like, we're runners. We frame our Boston Marathon bibs on our walls and
Yeah.
have them in our Zoom backgrounds.
Dun dun.
Okay, friends.
Okay,
Happy New
friends.
Year.
We got some
friends.
thoughts.
Oh,
We went
we're
from
friends now, are
we went from community to friends.
Yes, we're back.
We're back.
Friends.
Next
We
is going
made
to
it
be BFF.
through.
Yeah.
We got some thoughts about the new year. Well, it'll be interesting to see what we carry into January and February.
What's in, what's out. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.